Welcome back to the Nordic Championship. It is time for Game 2 between Nordavind and Ostersunds FK, and Nordavind were able to pick up Game 1 in a convincing fashion. Now coming up for Game 2, they are still holding on to this, but still, we mentioned it earlier, they need to win every single game today.
Yeah, in order to advance to the semifinals, since they were in the worst spot out of all the 6 teams who are playing for those semifinal spots, which are on the line right now. They did impress me a lot, though, in game number 1. I have to say they looked stronger than I thought going into
Stronger
these.
than ever, even.
Yeah. For sure.
Absolutely.
They played very calm, very collected, did not seem to stress at all, did not take any big risks when it came to making any sort of crazy tower dives or anything happen. Just played it slow with a good scaling comp, and it was solid overall.
Absolutely. Since FK, of course, also need to get this win to make sure that they stay in the top 4 in this tournament, but Nordavind want to put up with some good aggression versus this team composition. Now, of course, the Draven, as you saw, was banned yet again versus Unforgiven.
Yeah. He's really known as a Draven player. It's been banned every game of the tournament against him, at least when we've been seeing it. Also, the Yasuo very strong in the current meta, and the Kha'Zix Galio bans also coming out. So, big things that stood out in the draft in game number 1 was the lack of a front line for Ostersund. They elected to play Jace, Gragas, and Rakan, which really did not work out well for them. Playing without a frontline is fine. You can do it. A lot of the best teams do it, but it's very hard to do. And with how strong Kreis have been looking on a champion like Sion, he's been looking very good in that, getting solo kills on Sion.
Absolutely.
And also with Urgot being open in this game as well, I think getting a tankier pick so they actually have a frontline is not a bad idea at all.
Absolutely. Nordavind having the Lucian open, not banned for this particular round. Was instantly going to grab that one as Kreis goes for the Jace, and Unforgiven this time eyeing the Sivir.
Yeah, that would be a very nice set of champions right there with a lot of movement speed boost coming out of both of them. So maybe setting up for another Rakan pick if they are feeling frisky with a Galio getting banned out. Of course, that peel coming out of that champion worked out really well for game number 1 there with Touch, really keeping Tide safe on that Jinx. But they've been completely flipping this around, so going from a very safe scaling lane where you're just peeling for a hyper carry in the Jinx, you're going for one of the most aggressive and strong early lanes here with Lucian and Alistar.
Yeah, absolutely. Also for a second there, hovering the Braum pick, as Lucian and Braum also having a very strong lane, but the Alistar definitely also one of the top supports in this current patch. Ploxy yet again deciding to go for the Xin Zhao, as it worked out for him in game 1.
Wasn't able to make too many things happen, but didn't really have to make too many things happen there. And it's going to be the SWE pick away from Ericsson, so you got a very nice poke comp building here for Ostersund. You've got a lot of poke and a lot of safety on most of these champions, so what they really need right now from a jungler and a support is even more ability to keep them safe, a lot of disengage. So I want to see something like the Sejuani, something like the Gragas to be able to keep them safe, as well as something like a Braum or a Tahm Kench, or maybe even a Morgana, just to be able to peel for these high damage dealing poke champions.
Absolutely, and the Morgana will not be available for this game. Oh, sorry, the Morgana is available. The Braum will not be available for this game, as well as the LeBlanc. As Adept decided to pick the Zoe this time around, as Ericsson was very dangerous with his Sleepy Trouble bubbles in game 1, made sure that no one could get close to their team, and therefore no one was able to engage. We could see, for example, in the last fight, how Shred was taken out of that fight almost instantly before he was able to use any of his abilities. Now the final ban for Ostersunds FK is the Cannon, leaving Nordavind with the final ban.
Yeah, gonna look for a Morgana or Tahm Kench here probably if I am Nordavind, but instead banning the Sejuani, which I also mentioned. So yeah, really looking for Nordavind to pick up some good engage here and some tankiness on frontline. They've already got the Alistar and the Xin Zhao, who's kind of tanky, but up against Poke, one of the things you can really do to punish them is get to get tankiness and engage. So Sion is a pick that really stands out to me for Kakan. Not the most fun matchup to play into Jace, but it's definitely doable. So that is something that you could look for here. Also, I was going to mention the Poppy, but not. I mean, the steadfast presence wouldn't do too much in this game. So I think Signer, maybe even Urgot, who's been making it through so far, would be some nice picks for Kakan up top lane.
Absolutely, and now Shred is going for his signature pick with the Nautilus, one of the stronger players on this particular champion in this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. Getting a bit of tankiness in frontline there, which we were criticizing them for lacking in game number 1, will make this comp easier to execute for sure, and having insane pushing in the bottom lane. Sivir the strongest pushing AD carry. Nautilus, maybe the strongest pushing support. I mean, you're not ranged, but still you've got that E to really get down all the waves. So Unforgiven and Shred are just going to be pushing this lane 24/7, really being focused on getting that out. And maybe Nordavind are tuning into the stream because I did mention Sign and Urgot for Kakan. They hover both of them, but decide on the Urgot.
Yeah, absolutely. In the end, the Urgot for Kakan, as he was able to handle last game quite well on his Poppy. This time around, he's going with a bit of a more aggressive top lane champion. Now it's going to be the final jungle pick for Ostersunds FK. Lee Sin was banned in game 1. For this time around, Markoon could opt to go with this champion as it fits his play style quite well.
Yeah, that's going to be a good pick for them. They're being able to get a lot of early game potential to make things happen. And with the Jace lane up top lane, and even with the SWE into Victor, before Victor gets the first recall to upgrade his Hex Core?
Yeah,
Hex Core, I think is the name, yeah, to get that upgraded E for the wave clear. Both Adept and Crisis should have pressure in these solo lanes, and he's even got a pushing bottom lane, so Markoon actually able to make a lot of things happen early on, although this bottom lane is going to be really tough for them. I mean, they've got the pushing power, but still, Lucian, probably the strongest champion in the game at the moment, if you're asking me, together with the playmaking of the Alistar and the early game jungler of the Xin Zhao, Nordavind is going to be playing through bottom lane here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nautilus, not the tankiest support unless you get ahead, can absolutely be bursted quickly. For example, if you're hit by a Lucian and a Xin Zhao together with all of the CC, and Alistar can provide for his ganks. So that is something that Ostersunds FK need to worry about, as they are now stepping into game 2 with 1 loss. If they lose this, it's Nordavind, and Nordavind definitely want to bring out all the stops. They make sure that they want to get this win because they need all they can get. But Ostersunds FK, on the other hand, they're playing versus Riptide later today, so they have 1 more game still, of course. And even though they have that game to sort of play later, they really need every single point that they can muster. Even if they would lose this best of 3, they need at least to get 1 win to just make sure that they have something up ahead of their opponents.
Yeah, so that's really what's on the line here. Nordavind cannot lose this series. They will be out of the tournament. While Ostersund can lose and still have a chance of advancing because they were able to actually beat Ventus, the #1 team in the league earlier. So they still have the opportunity to do so. And I mean, there's just so much on the line. Let's see if the player can keep their wits about them here.
Absolutely. I mean, as soon as, like you say, they can definitely advance, even if they would lose this best of 3. But then they sort of have to rely on other teams making mistakes in this tournament, of some of the other top 6 teams in this tournament to lose to someone. And also, of course, they need to make sure that they win their second game today. So starting this day off with a loss would probably be terrible for the team morale. Now, moving out on the map, this is the team that now needs to prove that they have what it takes to pick one of those spots up in the top 4 in the bracket. On the other side, you have Nordavind, a team with everything to prove and everything to lose. They are right now 3-3. They are at the lowest of the teams that possibly could advance up to the semi-final. And they cannot afford to make a single mistake today.
Yeah, look at these junglers though. Ploxy and Markoon both on early game fighting champions, and the Xin Zhao and the Lee Sin can definitely be able to brawl it out early on, and it's going to be very important. I think the focus for Markoon should probably be around the solo lanes, where Crisis should be able to have some pressure on Kakan early. And Adept, we know he's a very skilled mid laner, one of the best in the league in my personal opinion. And on the Ignite SWE, he's going to be able to put down a lot of pressure in the mid lane. So I want to see Markoon be able to play around the solo laners, because Unforgiven and Shred here are just going to want to shove the waves and stay safe here up against a strong dual lane of Tide and Touch.
Absolutely. Adept with Ignite versus the Cleanse for Ericsson, as he does not want to get hit by Sleeper Trouble Bubble without it. You see Markoon starting at his blue buff. Same start for Ploxy on the opposite side of the map. We'll see what Markoon can do with his Lee Sin, as he has shown up on this champion before, but it's been very uneven in his performance in this tournament on this particular champion.
Yeah, I think Markoon have had some very good games and some not as good games. So we'll see which Markoon is going to be showing up this time around on the Gragas. He made a couple of mistakes last game around, so definitely needs to prove himself in this game. Gonna be perhaps looking to fight for the top trap. No, Plux is going to be taking that down before Markoon can do anything, and both these junglers really need level 3 to be able to do anything. With this path though, Markoon is going to be hitting level 3 pretty soon and be able to try to make something happen on towards the top side. With Crazy here though, and that ward timing out pretty soon, he can definitely do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Markoon have the exact timing on that ward. We're going for this path. That definitely means that he can set something up together with Crazy. Floxy not on the top side of the map anymore, so if they are able to get a gank up here, that would be huge for Crysis. We have seen him run away with games before. I think he has played Jace once or twice before in this tournament. I can't quite remember right
Yeah,
now.
at least once in the games that we've been seeing, but of course they've been playing a lot of games which we have not been streaming, so we could have been playing more Jace games there.
Yeah, absolutely. Jace being one of the top picks on this patch. You can see in the mid lane that Ericsson is taking quite a bit of harass in this matchup as Adept is pushing him in under his turret. Same thing happening up on top side as Price has a good handle on the wave, and down bot lane it's just going to be the farm party for now as Unforgiven wants to scale on his Sivir. But here comes someone that has something else in mind. Loxy has arrived bot lane, has not been spotted. Markoon is on the top side.
Yeah, this
Loxy
is...
could be going for this. He is looking for someone to engage on as this wave is pushing.
Could definitely be able to make something happen here. They don't know he is in there. There is a spell shield on Unforgiven, of course, but Shred is not going to be as tanky.
Yeah, spell shield not going to be enough. We need to flash immediately. Also using the heal CC still lands, and that is the first blood going over to Nordavind. Still playing around their bot lane and putting a lot of focus on getting Tide and Touch ahead.
Yeah, that is something that we've been expecting, really. They want to be putting pressure with Tide and Touch down here, using 2 flashes, but also burning both the Summoners and Unforgiven, so that is definitely worth it for them. And Shred and Unforgiven, they were really not the strong points for the team in last game. Perhaps they can be so today, but with the early call for Unforgiven, he's going to be ceding a lot of lane pressure to Tide, who's going to be picking up a couple of long swords here on this back, I believe, or even a Vamp Scepter for some extra sustain. So if I'm Pluxy, I'm hoping that there's going to be some good dragon spawning so that I can keep playing around the bottom side. And tell you what, Sang, it's an Infernal.
Yeah, Infernal Dragon going to be an important objective for this team, and also the bot lane, of course, Unforgiven having to use both his summoner spells in that gank and still dying in that situation. Not the best situation. Flash forced in the mid lane. Ericsson managing to get out of there. Touch using the Pulverize and getting out alive as well. But Adept now very low on HP together with Ericsson, of course, who also took a lot of damage in that fight.
Very important timing here. They're bursting down Ericsson, forcing him to recall before he has enough gold for his upgraded Hex Core. He's actually going to be staying around because he's lacking around 50 gold right now for that Hex Core. So now he's going to be recalling, but being able to pressure that Victor, force him to recall before he can afford that first item to upgrade the laser, which gives a lot of wave clear. That's an important point. So Ericsson is actually staying around for a very long time here. He's going to be pushing out the wave, and now he has enough for that Hex Core. So the real tough part of Victor's laning phase is now over.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a slow recall and getting back to that lane as Adept is just now arriving in mid lane. So top side, there is Markoon again with the gank that he's been wanting to get. Forcing the flash from Kakan as Kakan was able to get the ultimate off. Forcing the flash from Markoon, of course. Kakan in the end goes down. He went a little bit greedy with that one. Locks it down bot lane again. Setting this up together with Adept, as Adept has been spotted, but can they go for a dive versus a Nautilus, though?
They can definitely do it after Alistar has level 6 for that ultimate, but right now it's going to be tough, especially with Adept having lane prio mid lane, so Plux is going to have to get out of there. Also, Kakan just used TP to get back to the top lane, while Crazy has been keeping TP on this Jace, so that is something that will come to hurt him in the bottom lane. They can't play as aggressively right now, knowing that the enemy team has that TP advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Crazy was able to also get the gold up top lane for the gank. Ploxy now is going to steal the blue buff with the priority that he has on bot side. Marcoon in mid lanes, just now going to spot Kakan. He needs to get out of there. He's going to safeguard, though, taking a heavy amount of damage. Also, the ultimate used by Ericsson to make sure that Marcoon has to back off. And Marcoon not having the best game here.
Yeah, would have liked him to see play around his solo lanes earlier on. He tried to go for a quick gank to the top lane when he was hitting level 3, but did not end up happening because the vision that Nordavind has put down. And now Marcoon is not able to do anything on this Lee Sin. Of course, he has a good timing winner to make a gank happen after he hits 6, though, so that's the next thing he's looking for. I think he needs to do something when he unlocks that ultimate. Otherwise, he is just going to be falling too far behind in pressure versus Ploxy Sinsao, who's far ahead in farm, who's ahead in ganks and objectives as well.
Yeah, Ploxy is ahead in every single way. Adept in mid lane, getting ganked, but holding on to his summoner spells. With Flash available and the Ignite, should be able to get out of there, no problem at all. Also having Marcoon close. Ploxy simply going to push in the mid lane together with Ericsson, as Ploxy is doing a good job keeping the pressure up this game.
Infernal Dragon, which was picked up here, is not the greatest for the early game pressure when you've got a lot of strong early lanes, especially down the bottom side, but also since Sao really wants to force things to happen. Something like a Mountain would have been the stronger pick for them, but still Infernal is going to be scaling very well with it, especially with the Victor and the Lucian, both of course stacking a lot of AP and AD respectively. Overall, Ericsson is going to be scaling extremely well on this Victor, being able to shrew through pretty much anyone on Earth Core. They do have a bit more of a frontline this game than last time around with the Nautilus from the Shred, but still no true full tanks, meaning that Ericsson on this Victor is pretty much going to be able to one-shot anyone if he gets significantly far ahead.
Absolutely, but also want to say that denying the Infernal Dragon from Ostersunds FK is definitely also something that you want to do, because they have 3 damage dealers on their team, so just getting that little extra price there, the Dragons, is something that they definitely want. You can see Marcoon up top side, staying out of vision range of the ward at first. Now he has revealed himself. He's going to be spotted by Ploxy. Ploxy can't really force a fight here, as Marcoon can get out with a safeguard, but it's still going to force him to use his abilities defensively, getting warded down where he doesn't want it. And Marcoon's struggling quite a bit in this game. You see an attempt down bot lane that Shred wanted to try to go in for a little bit of an aggression on Tide, but as soon as he did, Touch arrived yet again. His Touch has gone with the mobility boots for this game. He's using them to their fullest power, roaming around on this Alistar. So Tide and Touch having a good bot lane down here.
And that is an important point that you bring up. Being able to get that those early mobility boots on the Alistar means as soon as he walks out of the lane, the whole team of Ostersund will have to be so scared on the other side of the map. And here comes mid to help on the gank to Adept, but he's not even needed.
Yeah, absolutely. No need for the support to arrive when you can just do the job on your own, Cock. And yet again, going way too aggressive versus Crisey and dying again. 0-2-0 now. The only player on his team that is falling behind. For the rest of them, they are having a good game so far.
And I'm not too sure about Kakan in game number 1. He didn't have to do anything, just kind of lost a matchup that he's supposed to be losing into Crisey, and then not doing too much after that. But this game around, he did not have to die in that first gank. He knew that Marcoon was up there in the ward, wanted to play a bit greedily, waste the flash of Marcoon, but ended up going down and now dies again. Means that he will lose a lot of farm right here under the tower, and a ton of tower plates are going to be going over to Ostersund. You can see a huge gold lead for Crisey's Jace, and the Rift Herald went down for Marcoon on top of that. He might even be used... Oh, he's not going to use it on the top side, but still, Core getting a big lead on the top side.
I think that Marcoon was contemplating using that on the top side, but now Cry stuck around for too long, flashing away, although the ultimate times out for Kakan, and he can't finish it off. The Ignite, just as it was able to take down Cry's low enough to trigger the second activating on the ultimate, that was when Cry's managed to get out. So yeah, not a happy cookie in the top side of the map. Rift Herald will in the end be deployed up top side, so they're gonna be able to secure this turret, but that Kakan, I think, will be so annoyed in this situation, now falling even further behind, using his summoner spells. And of course, well, gonna recycle it, but still, such an annoying situation. Losing top turret. Bot lane turret went down just like half a second after that, so gold is still going to be fairly even, but some extra gold going on to Kreis up in the top side.
Oh, they're gonna go for bot lane side of Kakan here. The flash was not used for Markoon, but was used for Kakan, and he gets away finally.
Yeah, Kakan is able to survive the third gank of the game. Still is gonna lose some more HP on that turret, as he can't defend this on his own for forever.
I like this game so far from both of these junglers because they're really choosing the correct lane to put pressure on. For the side of Nordavind, they have one of the strongest early game fighting bottom lanes in the game, so you really just want to be forcing around that. They have been rewarded with with one kill and getting the bottom lane tower, as well as one Infernal Dragon, going to be a Cloud Dragon right now for Plaxi as well. On the other side, Ostersunds has also chosen the proper lane to put their focus on. They've been putting Kakan very far behind and getting a lot of global gold from these towers. And you might think that, yeah, he's still an Urgot, he's still going to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Jace, but I say no when he's 2.2k gold behind this early on. Jace is going to be able to out-pressure him. Kakan's going to be having to hug his tower.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is the saving grace, I think, right now for Ostersunds FK, as this game at the start looked fairly similar to game one. They would have risked to lose in a similar way, but in their first game, Kreis wasn't really able to pop off that much on the Jace. But this game, though, he is looking so strong in these side lanes and will force a response from Nordavind.
At this point in the game, though, especially when Kakan's able to pick up that Black Cleaver, Nordavind are going to be having a very good mid-game, sort of like 1 to 2 item composition, especially this Lucian Alistar combo, but also the Xin Zhao are going to be so hard to deal with. So just forcing fights here is definitely something that they want to be doing. With all of this vision denial, the mobility boots Alistar, it's going to be hard for Ostersund to keep up. And with the Alistar ultimate, they can even go for tower dives at this point if they outnumber the enemy team.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is something that they have gone for in game one, really not being scared at all, going for aggressive tower dives if the situation is the correct one. You see Adept being pushed in mid lane. And Ericsson making sure to handle the ward control. Up top side though, Unforgiven is in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nowhere to run. Is gonna pop his ultimate, trying to run away, but no avail. That was a situation that he was completely unable to handle, meaning that's another turret being traded all over the map. Bot turret for top turret.
Yeah, and as we've been speaking about earlier, these teams are just playing around the strong points, which is always a good thing. If you're an up-and-coming player, if you're playing in solo queue, this is something that you want to be learning from. Play around your strong side of the map. Don't try to go help the lane that's hopelessly far behind. Try to secure more objectives and make your winning lanes win even more. And that's exactly what both of these junglers are doing. I have to say Flox is probably doing a better job of it though.
Yeah, absolutely, although Markoon has been able to make some things happen on this Lee Sin, I agree with you. An attempted engage. Not going to lead to anything. Nordavind trying to run away with what they have. They're not that far ahead though, although most of their gold lead has been... Well, actually, I'm not going to say that any one of them actually has that much of a gold lead individually, but as a team, it's fairly even. Here comes the tower dive you talked about. As Touch moves forward, Markoon going golden immediately. Not sure if he's going to be able to get away. Flashing out of that.
Ericsson is tanking. What is he doing?
Oh, Shroud, no. Tread, though, I mean, is tanking it up, going forward, chasing down Tide, and Tide caught in the air was the sacrificial lamb for that turret. As you mentioned, Ericsson was tanking that turret throughout that fight. Another engage coming up is going to put Kreis onto a killing spree, being able to pick up Kakan for the third time this game. So putting all of that effort into that tower dive, sacrificing so many members, that was the mistake that now has propelled FK back into the game as they were falling behind quickly.
I think that's the first big mistake that Nordavind has made in this entire series. I think in theory going for that sort of tower dive is a fine play to make, but with the execution there, especially with Ericsson tanking up the tower, for some reason I think Touch actually stepped out of tanking the tier 1 tower right there, which made Ericsson start to tank it. That ended up being huge because Victor damage did almost nothing in that tower dive, and with Victor being that low, being forced to recall, you don't have that safe wave clear in the mid lane, because as long as Victor is staying mid lane, once he has that upgraded Hex core for the upgrade on the Death Ray, he can clear minion waves forever. Unless you have the Baron, you can't really siege onto a Victor, but when you forced him back, that meant that Victor had to recall, and that meant mid tower going down.
Yeah, absolutely. Still such an even game versus these two teams, which is not something that you instantly would expect coming into this series, as Nordavind has coming into this with 3-3 versus FK 4-2, and FK have been looking like a fairly strong team, well-rounded all throughout this tournament. Nordavind been struggling a little bit more, but Nordavind still absolutely in this game. They have the early game power of the Lucian, and they have a lot of scaling power in the Victor, so this game definitely can still go either way. Now, in game 1, since FK wanted to go with a 1-3-1 team composition, Nordavind instead went with a full-out team fight composition with the hyper carry Jinx for the late game. This time around, though, these team compositions are looking a little bit more similar than they did in game 1.
Gotta agree with you right there. I think Nordavind had a bit more of the early game focus. Here I'd say that Ostersunds scales really well, and yes, you've got a Victor who does insane late game damage, but other than that, I say that Ostersund, they are scaling well in this game when you compare these teams going up against each other. So Nordavind, they have to play like unlike they did in game number 1. In game number 1, they just took it very slow, methodical. This time I think they need to keep trying to force the plays, which they sort of did with that mid lane tower dive, but that did not end up working out well at all for them. Second Cloud Dragon's gonna be making the engages easier, but I'm not sure if that was the Dream Dragon for them.
Absolutely. They do not want these Cloud Dragons. They want the powerful...
Kakan, what are you doing?
Instead, but Kakan actually going to use his flash in that situation and just barely surviving, as the Betrayal Bubble was tanked up by his teammate. But still, like you said, what are you doing? Being in that position in the first place might not be the ideal position for this part of the game, or for that, what that matters, any part of the game, to be honest.
Kakan's not having a great game on this Urgot. He is 500 gold ahead of his own support, which kind of says a lot right now. Been making a couple of mistakes here. Still, not anything too terrible. Can also mention when talking about the gold and the item builds, that it seems like Floxy really likes Jarum's Fist as an item.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting choice, a new item. Will, of course, give him a little bit of a damage spike when he uses his ultimate, but...
It's definitely a misbuy. There is no way you're actually wanting to buy 2 Jarum's Fists on, since I'm almost certain that is a mistake.
Oh right, I misheard you actually. I thought you were talking about the new item of the game.
Oh, no.
No, that's a completely different item. No, I agree with you. The double Jarum's Fist is not going to be that helpful. Might be a little bit of tournament nerves there, double-clicking the item.
Absolutely could be the case. Do have some good item completions right now for Ostersund, especially Crazy on this Jace. He's going to be so big when he's pushing up these side waves. He is by far actually the richest player in this game. He's going to be putting on huge pressure on the Kakan. There is no way he can go toe-to-toe with this Urgot. Maybe he can survive if he just sits under his own tower, but I would actually not be too much against Nordavind trying to force a play on another side of the map, because you know so much of Ostersund's gold is in Crisis, so even though they have a gold lead when you compare the teams, if you just look at the 4v4, not counting the top laners, Nordavind has the gold lead. So if you're able to make an engage happen when you know Crisis down here in the bottom lane, that could be a play that gets you ahead here.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see Kakan instantly. That's one combo from Crazy, taking him down below half HP. So he has a hard time holding on to this, going to send Tide down bot lane to pick up those last hits. As Crazy sees this, he is moving forward. They want to have Tide down there, because Tide is kind of the key player of Nordavind at the moment. Ericsson, though, is scaling up, starting to become fairly strong. You can see that I'm going to force the flash bot lane and use the call and chase Pricey down.
Oh, the damage!
Pricey has so much damage, but a good relentless pursuit is going to dodge most of it, and that is the shutdown goals in the hands of Tide. That is actually pretty huge for Tide to pick that up for his team, also releasing some of the pressure on his bot lane. Touch taking some hefty damage in the mid lane. Not going to mean that much, though, at this point.
You have to question, especially Crazy, but also the whole of Ostersund right there. You know your win condition is this Jace. He's the one that has a big lead. You're gonna win this game through him putting on pressure in the side lane, and then you have only a single ward on the entire bottom side of the map, which was in the tri-brush, and he's pushing up to the second tier tower of the enemy bottom lane. That is just too risky by Crazy. If you've got that poor of a vision control on the bottom side, you really need to keep track on all the members of the enemy team and have your teammates call, okay, the Lucian is missing, but as it looked right there, he did not, and a big shutdown went over to the side of Tide, who's now almost as rich as Crazy in this game, and that's not something that you want to see at all if you are Ostersund.
No, absolutely, especially since you mentioned it earlier, the Ostersund's FK had most of their gold in the hands of their top laner. Now falling behind like that is going to put this into a much better team fight situation for Nordavind, as Nordavind tries to go for an engage. Adept not going to be able to land his Sleepy Trouble bubble through the wall. It's going to just back off. Another attempted team fight by Nordavind. Very carefully planning these fights, as they don't want to overcommit a single step.
Yeah, kind of good for Shredder actually that he was not able to land the Q on the enemy team, because that would probably have meant his death, and you really need to talk about this right now if you are a member of the Ostersund team. What is our win condition? How are we going to be winning this game? And as I said, through pressure with his Jace, which means that you don't want the other 4 members on the team to go for any sort of hard engages. Looks like they're going to be setting up for the Ocean Dragon here, but Unforgiven is up in the top lane, so I think you need to get out of here if you don't want to get engaged on in a 4 versus 3 scenario with Unforgiven split pushing.
Yeah, absolutely, and Unforgiven, although he pushes quickly, not really the champion you want in a side lane right now. Objectives on the map, simply going to donate this Ocean Dragon over to Nordavind. Not too sad about it, though, as the Ocean Dragon means fairly little at this point of the game, 25 minutes in. Though, of course, it's always good to have the extra sustain with a little bit of extra regeneration. I think both of these teams were hoping for a Mountain or Infernal.
Yeah, especially that first Mountain really makes a huge difference when it comes to the Baron pressure. Being buffed up early on, that's going to be providing you so much pressure there with the Lucian Victor. You're still pretty good at taking the Barons, and Sin Sao can do some decent damage as well. So that is what I think Nordavind were hoping for. Still not going to be too sad. Ocean Dragon goes up in value when you've got mana-reliant champions, and you've got 5 mana-using champions, and 2 of them, I'd say, both your Carries, Victor and Lucian, are very reliant on having mana in your... I was going to say having mana in your inventory, but I don't think that would be the correct term. Having mana in your bank.
In your... Yeah, exactly, in your bank. I don't know, could it be... Could you have mana in your inventory? If you have mana potions, does that count?
I guess it would.
I guess it would, alright. So Baron is up now, 25 minutes in. Neither of the teams have been making any attempt of getting it. Playing slowly around the map. You can see Crysis down bot lane again. Still, of course, being quite ahead of Kakan.
Oh, here's going to be the engage with Righteous Glory.
Yeah, engage on Adept. Adept flashing over the wall immediately to get away. Shred using his ultimate on Tide. Tide, though, disengaging instantly. Shred goes down low. Not tanky enough to handle this.
Here
and there comes the
Crysis.
follow-up engage. Crysis has arrived, but can he do this on his own? Doesn't look like it. He's a 4 versus 1 situation. Heal has been used. Flash forward, instant heal as well to save Crysis' life as Unforgiven was there on time. But this is an open Baron now, as finally Nordavind decides to put in the higher gear and get this game going.
Shred has been looking so shaky these fights. He was the one engaging that time around, and then just ends up getting caught out. Markoon is going to look for the steal, though. Can Touch stop this? He needs to get the Lee Sin out of here, but he's gonna die before that happens.
Yeah, it looks like it. Marcoon trying though, has been CC'd, has been pulled in with the Guardian Angel, is going to survive it. Unforgiven has been able to kill Touch while that happens, but instantly as Marcoon gets out of that Guardian Angel, he goes down again. It's up to Unforgiven. He wants to try to steal this, but not going to happen. Well played by Plox. They're waiting out all of those burst abilities and then finally using his smite when it was safe, not taking a single risk.
So I think this game so far has been looking very even, and I was just going to point out how fun it is that Unforgiven was 0-2 and 0 and had a 450 gold bounty just from farming up in the side lanes. But then the entire game just flips on top of its head. Righteous Glory for the Alistar just runs in at the enemy team, and I actually think that Ostersund would have been able to make it out there, but a questionable re-engage from Shred means that they get a couple deaths on the team, and then it's just a clean Baron from Nordavind. Big question is, what can they do with it right now? They are going to be able to go for a mid lane push here, and I don't think you actually want to be splitting this game either. Just think you go for the sort of a calm pushing of the towers here, but you don't have the same amazing siege as they did last time around with that long-range Jinx.
Yeah, absolutely, and also Unforgiven shredding these waves quickly on his Sivir. We'll see if it's going to be another tower dive attempt from Nordavind, as the last time they did not work out that well for them. Still is going to brute force this. There comes the tower dive, jumping forward, but all the focus is on Ericsson, instantly going golden, just barely surviving it. Kreis has been killed through that fight. Turret finally goes down in a 2-4-0. Since FK was not able to hold on through all of that damage, although for a second it looked a bit more dangerous. Speaking of dangerous, here comes the follow-up, and oh, Adapt! Yes, barely out of range to be able to hit that combo on Tide. So Tide is going to survive that. I think he was just praying there for a second as he was stuck. No one there to block it for him. Inhibitor now going down together with the Inhibitor. Sleep Patrol Bubble not going to hit anything with the short range it has when you can't use it through walls. And that is finally the Inhibitor now for Nordavind, being able to brute force it after 29 minutes into the game. Very happy with the use of that Baron buff, I think.
Yeah, and that big engage in the mid lane was really close actually for Ostersund to be able to have a fighting chance there with Kreisy, the big carry on this team, on this fed Jace, almost able to one-shot Ericsson. He got the entire damage combo up on Victor, who I think is the correct person. The only big problem was he had a Sonus in his inventory, so Kreisy jumps into melee range, meaning he's pretty much going to be trading his life for Ericsson's, and then that really annoying sound comes out with the stasis. So that's a sad Kreisy, that's a happy Nordavind. They're going to be securing the third Cloud Dragon of the game, and they are going to be looking to maybe be able to execute another dive at the bottom lane before Baron buff runs out. About 1/5 of it left.
Yeah, exactly, and we'll see what they can do with it as they have the push in the mid lane together with this. Could get another turret on top of this Baron buff. Well-used Baron buff this time around. Nordavind playing so much better. The further we get into this series, the more they are making happen. And I am quite impressed, actually, by Nordavind at this point, holding on to their nerves as well. They know they need to make this happen. Now moving forward yet again. Touch going up, getting the kills off, managing to instantly burst down Adept. The re-engage is there, but no follow-up for Marcoon as he tries. It's only Unforgiven left up under his turrets behind enemy lines right now, as the enemy lines have arrived inside of his base. Another Golden Zanya moment, going to stop that attempt to get one final kill, and that is it. Nordavind 2-1 versus Ostersunds FK. Gonna start this day off with an upset.
Yeah, 2-0 even, being so decisive in both these games. An MVP touch, in my opinion. He was so clean on the Alistar. Also very good on the Galleon game number 1, but he's always been able to make these engages, and Kakan gets a bit of a redemption in that last team fight. He was not looking too strong early on, but was able to get the clutch ultimate and then flash in with the fear, being able to fear Kreisy on the Jace, who was not able to do anything. Overall, I'm impressed by Nordavind.
Yeah, absolutely. Nordavind going 2-0 in this series, and they needed to make it happen. There was so much on the line, and they did, which makes me believe in them so much more, because with all that pressure on top of you moving forward, handling that and being able to beat one of the teams that on paper have been doing better than you in this tournament so far. That is huge. So Nordavind really showing up, although they still need to win one more game today to have a chance to be in the runnings for the top spots. So they're not out yet. They're not in the clear, but a good start.
Yeah, they have a tough second series of the day up against Nirki, the really strong Finnish team, but if they play like they did today, I think they have a very good chance at being able to take a spot in the semifinals. For the side of Östersund, though, they have a game against Riptide still left, which honestly should be a victory for Östersund unless they mess up somehow, unless they like if they don't make any big mistakes, they should be able to beat Riptide. But even if they win that game, they're not guaranteed a spot in the semis.
Exactly. Now it's up to the rest of the teams, but still, Nordavind, if they win one more game, that's the point where Östersund's FK really need to worry, because then that's one spot that is sort of taken away from them as they have lost to Nordavind. But this is a tournament where a lot of things needs to be calculated, because these teams, of course, simply with game points, that is one very important thing, but also the match points, of course. You need to gather every single game that you can. You need to gather every single match that you can. And then, if it's still even, then it's up head to head. So if, for example, it's between Nordavind and Östersund's FK, and they're fighting about that final 4th spot, then it's going to go to Nordavind because they already won versus Östersund's FK once. That is also so important in this. So a lot of things can happen. We're going to try to keep you updated as the evening progresses and as we find out which other teams are winning off stream. For now, we're going to a quick break. We'll be right back with more games, so don't go anywhere.